When Donald Trump announced his sweeping global tariffs on what he called Liberation Day, the aim was to push back against China and encourage more manufacturing in the United States. But that plan could backfire, if it hasn't already, because China has been working on a plan of its own to force American brands to build their cars in China because it controls 90% of the world's rare earth magnets, which are essential for electric motors and sensors. Joining us live this morning is former DFAT Australia-China Council scholar Andrew Phelan. Andrew, good morning to you. So it's the exact opposite of what Trump's tariffs were supposed to do.
Yes, well, Peter, we've known about China's strengths in rare earths since the 1980s. In fact, the late Paramount leader Deng Xiaoping famously said, Saudi Arabia has oil, China has rare earths. And rare earths are actually not that rare, and the US has its own resources in rare earths. But the issue is, for the last 20 odd years, China's been really pretty much the sole supplier, both in terms of mining and, more importantly, processing. So the rest of the world, we've known about this for a long time, but we failed to act. And as a result of that, we've made ourselves virtually, dependent on China for these rare earth magnets, which use rare earth elements like neodymium, dysprosium, and terbium that most people have never heard of. The magnets are in everything, including sort of, I guess you'd say, medium tech products, but also high tech products like F-35s and med tech and a whole bunch of things. And particularly in the auto industry, the magnets that are about the size of a fingernail, end up in motors. And right now, China is not exporting those. So the US auto industry and Europe and Korea have been thrown into this turmoil about how to get around this in their supply chains.
So what do they do? What does Ford do? What does Toyota do? If China's got 90%, it's not enough to go around.
No, they're asking themselves the same questions at the moment. So they're trying to workshop this because, while you could argue, as many have, that Trump's tariff call is a fair call because China's got away with non-tariff barriers and tariff barriers since the very first car joint venture, Beijing Jeep, back in the late 80s when I was originally in China. But China's made this call to go strategically after EVs. The state has supported it with subsidies, both to the industry and to consumers. China has the two biggest suppliers of batteries in the world in CATL, a Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited, which just listed very successfully on the Hong Kong Exchange, and also BYD, which Elon Musk was laughing at a decade ago.
Yeah.
The former company that they used to make batteries for mobile phones. Now they're one of the two big battery players for EVs. Elon's not laughing right now. Yeah. And interestingly, he decided to throw open the bonnet, as it were, on all his IP, basically gifted it to the world. China took advantage of that. They invited Elon into China. They went to California, 10 plus years ago. And of course, they have the plant there. They've learned from Tesla. Yeah. And so, now, he's got this cutthroat competition.
So, as we know, China's masters of the long game, right? So if nothing has changed on this front when it comes to the auto industry, what's the end result? Is there a global shortage of these popular American or Japanese brands? Or does this just allow China to keep on dominating? Therefore, we see more and more BYD cars, as you said, here in Australia.
Well, we will see more, and we are seeing more. Their market share is growing. You can get a very good quality, say, Chery, for example, which was born out of a joint venture between GM and SAIC Motor in Shanghai 20 odd years ago. And interestingly, GM accused Chery of stealing their IP from the Chevy Volt. And if you notice Chery, the brand name, there's only one letter difference between Chevy and Chery.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. And so the West, or the rest, if you like, has got to look at recycling. They've got to look at other sources. And because they're going up against the resources and focus of the PRC Inc., the state, they've got to look at ways that they've got to get their hands on more of these rare earth elements and process them. And that's not going to happen overnight. No. So China has a lot of leverage here. And this is part of not just the trade war, but a broader Cold War, if you like, where Scott Besson is accusing them of reneging on their promises in their so-called trade war truce, where they're saying, we'll continue to export these things. Now they're dragging their heels on that.
Okay.
The Chinese have said we're going to stop Chinese students coming to the US, and particularly to schools like Harvard, where Xi Jinping's daughter went to school and
Yep.
Bo Xilai's son went to school.
Yep.
And so both sides are playing real hardball at the moment.
Yep.
And the auto industry has been caught unawares and unprepared.
All right, we'll see where it lands, Andrew. Good to have you with us this morning.